Call of Duty has been one of the biggest franchises since the burst in popularity in online gaming. For over a decade, it has been ranked as one of the best-selling games each year, and the addition of Warzone turned it into an absolute gaming juggernaut. However, the last few additions to the game have not been the best received, and its player chart shows a consistent decline as more and more players lose interest in the disappointing additions to the game. Call of Duty is one of Activision's biggest cash cows, and the last thing they want is for this game to crater in popularity. They know that they need a strong addition to the franchise that will rejuvenate interest in the game to their peak levels in 2021. That is why there is so much riding on Black Ops 6. It really determines the future of the Call of Duty franchise. If it isn't able to save the reputation and player count of the game, Activision will be forced to go back to the drawing board and come up with another way to gain player support back. Today on Poseidon Films, we investigate if Black Ops 6 will be able to save the Call of Duty franchise from their collision course with an iceberg. Since the release of the first Call of Duty, most games have made huge strides in movement. This has unlocked a new level of map control and enjoyability. Call of Duty has dabbled in increased abilities, but their new mechanics they have on display for Black Ops 6 look like they will add a new layer to a game that has needed a refresh for some time. I think this new movement will allow all players to have a more enjoyable experience, but I also think it allows the competitive scene to have a new layer of depth added to it. Compared to most strategic shooters, Call of Duty has always lacked a layer of depth compared to games like Siege. I think the ability to control your character in more advanced ways, combined with the advanced movement, will add a layer of strategy to the highest levels of gameplay. It also adds something players need to master, boosting replayability of the title and hopefully stabilizing player counts to sustainable level throughout the duration of the game. Most Call of Duties have a huge burst in popularity upon initial release, before petering out strongly after the Christmas season. I think this added depth will help combat that drop-off that usually plagues Call of Duty. It also answers player demands to add something to the game to make it more engaging. These movements would absolutely change the way Warzone players could take advantage of the map. While multiplayer will be a huge hit for sure, Activision is really banking on this also being able to resurge Warzone. That is the real moneymaker. Compared to a standard multiplayer game, a title like Warzone can be a theoretically money printer. Between Warzone and multiplayer, there will be options to keep players online for a longer period. I also think it is incredible that they are bringing back the campaign. It makes the purchase price a lot more tolerable for the consumers. I also missed Call of Duty campaigns. Sure, they aren't perfect, but there is no denying they are some of the most iconic single-player stories in the FPS genre. Black Ops is also a brand name that will bring some players on the fence to the side of purchasing. Black Ops is known as being one of the better Call of Duty entries usually. People may just purchase for the name alone, not knowing what to expect. At that point, it is really up to the gameplay to keep these players engaged. We can't talk about all the gameplay options without talking about the return of zombies as well. Zombies is a fan favorite mode, and when Activision manages to do it right, they are some of the best work they are capable of producing. People still go back and play Black Ops 2 Zombies. That is how good of an experience it is. If they can pull off a high-level zombies experience, then this is just another tool in the arsenal Black Ops 6 will have. The big question in all of this is if Activision is still capable of delivering an experience the way they used to be able to. Treyarch does have a history of making good games, but with this amount of content, their development cycle is going to be pushing it to the limit. While some games have decades to be polished and stay in development, Call of Duty is a yearly release. Even if Treyarch had extra time to get ready, they are going to have a maximum of 3 years to polish this release. I think they are capable of doing it, but Activision doesn't really care if the game launches unfinished. The last few launches of Call of Duty have not gone well. We know that they are totally willing to release a game that has lots of issues. If they decide to do this with Black Ops 6, it will spell disaster for the franchise long term. Plenty of people are going to buy the game day one. It is large enough of a franchise that has die-hard support. If these people go on to tell all their friends the game is a total dumpster fire, then their momentum will be totally stopped. I know a lot of people who are on the fence for this game and have told me they are going to wait to see how it comes out on launch. It is crucial that they manage to pull off a launch without any of the issues that have plagued them recently. I also think it is going to be hard to balance all of the requests of the community. In the past, all they had to worry about was a good multiplayer experience. Now they have to balance that. Warzone, zombies, and the campaign. It is a lot harder to deliver on that many fronts than just focusing on one. It doesn't help that a lot of things that are good for Warzone don't always end up being great for multiplayer. Activision is going to have trouble balancing all these demands and are eventually going to have to make a choice on what side of the game they really want to focus on. I do think most Call of Duty fans have become somewhat jaded after the last few releases, and they aren't going to be going into this title with the same optimism they would have in the past. The goodwill the franchise had started to build up again since 2019 has been squandered at this point. These headwinds mean that Activision has a hard road ahead, but based on feedback so far, they may have actually pulled it off. A lot of professional players and content creators have said it looks engaging and had good feedback on the gameplay releases we have had so far. I think making sure content creators are happy is becoming more and more important in the overall gaming landscape. The biggest streamers and creators playing your game is endless money saved in free marketing. It also becomes embedded in the current gaming culture, increasing player numbers. If this is one of those games that people only play for a week or two before moving on, it would mean even more things are working against their momentum. I do think that if they can corner some of that nostalgia combined with the new gameplay elements, they can capture a strong segment of these creators. The more potential players are exposed to the game in a positive way, the more likely they are to purchase the game in the future. This is one of those titles that has the potential to capture lightning in a bottle if they do it correctly. A lot of the negative rumors so far also don't really carry much weight when investigated. The claim the file is going to be 300 gigabytes was dispelled. That is what you could need if you had everything downloaded for Warzone, which at this point is several Call of Duties in addition to the new title. So sure, if you have 8 AAA games installed in 2024, unfortunately, it is going to take up that amount of space. I wish games were better at space management as well, but for now, they appear to love making us buy more storage space. Activision is also listening to players and community leaders more than they were in the past. I think this is a step in the right direction, and it shows that they know it's crucial to have this be a big hit for the franchise. Since they were acquired by Microsoft, it is important to show big returns on one of their biggest titles. Microsoft isn't going to be happy if this launch flops and Activision doesn't end up making their multi-billion-dollar investment worthwhile. Call of Duty is also at a potential turning point in its reputation. It is a huge franchise, but if this one is a huge flop, then I think the overall consensus will be that buying the new titles is a waste of time until people have tested it. This would drop pre-orders by a huge margin, which matters a lot when it comes to funding of future titles. If Call of Duty can't pull it off with their endless budget now, there is no way they will be able to make a comeback with a smaller development budget. You can't blame fans for feeling this way either. Right now, Call of Duty is a coin flip on if it will be a good entry or not. If this one is bad, then that changes the odds to overwhelmingly likely be a disappointing purchase. Once your games start to have a reputation of being a waste, it is hard to get the community back on your side. It isn't impossible at that point, but it would be much easier for fans and Activision to just have a smooth release that is embraced by millions. The last thing Activision wants to do is give themselves an uphill road to redemption. I think that we count on them to do their best to deliver a good product. I, for one, am very excited for a chance to get my hands on the game and try out multiplayer. It would be great to relive my days dolphin diving in Black Ops 1 this many years later. Activision has a lot of balancing to do, but if they can't do it being the revenue behemoth that they are, then it truly might be impossible to save the franchise. The closer we get to release, the more likely they are to make last-minute changes to draw in more players too. Pre-orders for this game haven't been the strongest, so I know Activision has to be getting desperate to make sure this game has the sales they expected. I think they will begin to add more requested features the closer we get to release, and they will be spending big when it comes to advertising from release. The more Activision is backed into a corner, the more likely it is that we'll actually do what players want in the game. Which really says a lot about the state of modern gaming. The franchise could have been saved at any point, but instead they are only starting to do what they should have years ago when their money's on the line. They waited until the next entry was going to be do or die before they made changes, and unfortunately for a legendary franchise, its fate now rests in the hands of the community embracing it with open arms. I don't pre-order games anymore. I have been burned too many times. That being said, I am going to give Black Ops 6 an open and honest try because I really want it to be a success. Sure, I may look stupid upon release when people are watching this video, but I want the best for the franchise as a whole. I think there are plenty of things to be optimistic about when it comes to the changes announced so far. If Call of Duty fans are fair to the game and it isn't a total trash fire, this may usher in another golden era of Call of Duty. That is my analysis of if Black Ops 6 can save Call of Duty. If you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate you pressing the like button and commenting what you think the game will be like. If you enjoy gaming videos like this, you should check out our other videos. Last week we posted a video about how Herobrine was able to terrify a generation. We post a weekly gaming video and are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers this year. So if that stuff interests you, then be sure to subscribe with notifications on. Thank you for watching.